Lately, I've been slowly picking away at a comic book before bed to kind of wind down the day. Specifically, I've been reading the first story arc of an indie horror comic called Something is Killing the Children. Created by writer James Tynion, illustrator Werther Dell'Edera, and colorist Miquel Muerto, the series... Well, first off, its title is blunt as hell. The backwoods town of Archer's Peak is thrown into a nightmare as kids start disappearing and fast. Any who are found in bloody pieces, and a strange, tired-eyed woman named Erica Slaughter, yes, I know, rolls into town claiming to be a monster hunter coming here because, well, something is killing the children. The story is about a lot of things, really. There's the obvious, decades-old societal fear for the safety of our kids that's been causing numerous fake moral panics and filling several Stephen King doorstoppers over the years. There's imagined fears spreading out of control, manifesting dangers that were never and should never be real. There's the kind of systemic failures that we see every day in the modern world, where institutions meant to protect us are failing us, sometimes because our leaders are in over their heads and uninformed or out of touch, or sometimes because organizations with ostensibly good intentions have lost sight of their priorities and don't end up saving lives as a result. Most of these themes have been cited by the creators as touchstones for the story, and they certainly do build the bedrock that the series' dread and horror are built on. But what I personally can't stop thinking about is something a little different, a little less upfront, and coincidentally it all comes back to that extremely on-the-nose title. Something is killing the children. Something is killing the children. Something. Not a very descriptive word, is it? It leaves a lot to the imagination. The thing is, the threat in Archer's Peak is not as vague as a something. In the first issue, a boy named James survives an attack and tells Erica and the reader what he saw. And Erica knows about this monster. Others do too. There's an organization, the House of Slaughter, dispatching her to take care of the threat, and it's just a branch of a larger thing called the Order of St. George. There's a straight-up classification system, y'all. As the story goes on, we learn what it is, how it works. It's a defined thing, not just something. The catch, then, is that only children can see the monster. Adults, parents, authority figures can't. The monster will stalk about in broad daylight right next to them, and they won't even know. Sure, there's ways around it. Erica and her organization can see them and can make others see them if needed. But as far as the parents, cops, and all they know is that something is killing the children. James sees a horrifying creature, it kills and eats his friends, but he won't tell the police what he saw. He can't tell them because his father found him in the woods and should have seen the monster but didn't, so if people can't see it, who would believe him? To James, there is a monster stalking the woods, but to everybody else, it's just something is killing the children. And that, to me, is the sticking point. There are kids in the story who are dealing with very real threats, and the people they should be able to rely on for help fundamentally can't understand enough to help. As fantastical as the premise is, it's not exactly unrelatable, is it? Being isolated is as common a childhood experience as you can get. I think there's a parallel in how many adults can view the mental struggles of children as, for lack of a better word, trivial when compared to the adults' problems. How many times in high school were you stressed or upset or anxious or depressed about something and were told it's not a big deal? Or the even less helpful, it's just how the world works. There was something you were actively afraid of, causing you real fear and anxiety, real depression, causing you to seek escapism and, for some people, self-harm, but your parents didn't understand. So when you reached a breaking point, all they saw was, well, something killing the children. Another part of this fixation of mine is that I see a parallel to the way that I experienced social anxiety growing up. I struggled to speak up in conversations because I felt unable to contribute anything of worth. I looked for excuses to avoid friends when I couldn't handle the anxiety. Then I felt ashamed of my inability to just function socially like a normal person. But I also felt like I couldn't talk about it. My parents saw I didn't have many friends, sure, and tried to help when I was little, but by high school they just stopped. It was how I was. And sure, that's how I tried to think about myself, but that didn't stop the anxiety. The anxiety was still there. The loneliness was there. The pain was still there. It led to long-lasting anxiety and deep depression in my adult life over the years, but from the outside to my loved ones, it was just something killing the children. And nothing they could do because a mutual lack of communication turned into a lack of understanding, and then not being able to do anything about it, and then being afraid that something is killing the children. Kids growing up today are awash with news about forever wars and failing institutions, overt fascism, and open bigotry. They're afraid for their future and hurting. But if parents don't understand how that is impacting them, then all they'll see is something is killing the children. But the worst place that I see it, the most ugly and malicious and cruel place that I see it, is in how a certain crowd of conservative parents talk about their queer children. They'll talk about how their child didn't used to be this way until they met X, or read Y, or went to Z. It doesn't matter that their child tried to talk to them and were at best ignored, at worst abused. It's just something killing the children. They'll be confused or hurt or even angry that their kid stopped speaking with them, but without any introspection. Without trying to understand why it is their own fault that their child felt hurt or even in danger. They won't try to actually understand their child. And so their perspective will turn into this gross, hateful feeling that something is killing the children, and it will be all in their head, turned outward into abuse and shitty politics. At the end of the day, what I appreciate most about Something is Killing the Children is that this isolation is not a guarantee. It's not an immutable fact that these kids who need support and comfort and help will have to suffer alone. That's not a fact of life. It's no coincidence that there is a way to make adults see the monster, an impromptu bit of trepanation to reveal the hidden danger, forcing yourself to physically open your mind and see things from the children's perspective. I don't think it's a coincidence either that Erica, for all her attitude and as jaded as she can be, was herself just a traumatized kid who chose when she grew up to show kindness to the children who survive. Erica listens and lets James help her, and tries to keep him and others safe, and tries to help them understand and overcome their fears. And canonically, that overcoming is a critical step in stopping the monster attacking the town. While the police chief is grasping at straws and the other members of the House of Slaughter are too preoccupied with keeping their secrets and saving lives, Erica ends the violence not only through violence of her own, but by helping kids cope with their trauma. If something is killing the children, then the way to save them is to take them seriously, listen to them, support them, and just generally give a shit, you know?